sing, he could perform, he was sexy. I remember one thing that sticks out in my mind, and I don't know why. The band's playing, and some scene is being created, and I don't hear no music. So what I'm seeing is Johnny. He had beautiful real baggy pants, and he had those, what do you call those shoes? Those those big, fat, thick shoes, you know.
I thought he had a certain style because he chose a very good pair of shoes, which was a pointed brothel creeper that I was doing in white buckskin at the time.
I think somebody was giving him a hard time in the audience. So he goes into his pocket very slowly at his own pace, and he pulls out some change. And he's like counting his change, like make sure he has enough for bus fare to get on the bus and go home. You know, that's what it looked like to me. And it's the way he did it with such humor and camp, tongue-in-cheek, and I like that.
It was amazing because the Sex Pistols used to have carte blanche, really, and they would just come in and pick clothes that they wanted and have it styled on them, or they would just, you know, the stories are quite true about sort of John Rotten just cutting arms off and things of clothes, or cutting necks off. And the Sex Pistols, that whole bondage thing, of course, was very, very much linked. The bondage trousers and the bondage jackets were very much linked with the Sex Pistols. And we sold many, many of those. The bondage trousers, I should think, was probably one of the most popular pairs of trousers since jeans were invented.
Clothes don't really matter to me. They're things to enjoy, but not take too serious. It becomes a tragedy, though, when you get an audience trying to imitate that, and you get Malcolm and Vivian mass-producing it in their shops. It's quite disastrous, really. It's like the kiss of death, because it all then suddenly becomes so commercial, so regular, and so mundane. It becomes a uniform. Be a punk, join the army.
Well, almost from the start, I think I was aware that it was some sort of a movement. I mean, I always use the fact that, I mean, when I saw the first punk girls, I say girls rather than women advisedly because they were very young. I saw the first punk girls on the street. I used to think they ought to be taken into care for their own protection, because when I was in the army, there was an offence with which you could be charged, which was like people used to shoot themselves in the foot to avoid being sent overseas to somewhere like Cyprus. And I used to think that if there was some kind of civil equivalent to that, then these people should be charged with it, because they appeared to be willfully disfiguring themselves. And then, like a week later, I could see the same person, and for no real reason that I could identify, it suddenly looked great.
Cannily, or maybe from a haberdasher's shrewd point of view, I provided them with things that they could wear. T-shirts. You know, the particular one of the two nude cowboys, I remember Steve Jones adored, with two penises almost touching each other. And the idea of the name Sex Pistols was the sort of sexy young assassins. Pistol meaning a gun, and then pistol meaning a kind of a penis.
What's the matter with the man? Is he ill?
Maybe.
And Rotten and Matlock, perhaps the more grammar school element of the group, rather than Jones and Cook, who were the real street working class kids, thought, oh, we can't go on stage with the name the Sex Pistols. And Rotten said, why can't we just have the name Sex? And I thought, well, the name Sex is just, you're not saying it all, boy. You know, get it out. What do you mean sex? That could mean anything. Sex Pistols, and you're active immediately. It was true to say that I was denied access to a lot of the colleges. I remember phoning up the Chelsea College of Technology, the women in charge of the union putting the phone down because they refused to have a group like that on stage. And so I ended up really playing in the places that I knew I would find more acceptance, which was my early days having been at art school and being in an environment of more of the dispossessed, or let's say the bohemian, those with a certain aesthetic flair, would be the places that the Sex Pistols should play. So they started at art schools, and that was, when I look back at it now, in the tradition of a lot of rock and roll, which actually came out of art schools. It was explosive, and I think the curiosity about punk rock that still prevails today was simply because it was sexually a very hot moment for a huge wanting that those that became part of indulged in, that generation.
Must have been my 16th birthday party, Berlin's baby bondage party. This was in Plaistow Grove, Bromley.
It was called Sex Olympics, I think. All the Pistols were invited and various friends, and this was in a suburban house whilst his parents were away, and on either sides were busybodies.
People just came and drank and took sulfate and fucked and drank and took sulfate. They were fucking on the hall, in the bath, in my mum's bed, in my bedroom, in the garden, in the front garden, on the garden path. Wherever they could, they did it. It was fantastic. I've never seen purple sheets splattered like that. And my parents used to have these awful what do they call them? Polystyrene tiles on the room, and there was Susie's whip marks all across them when they came back.
What are those scratches? What could have caused them?
Kids?
Well, they must be bolder than in your young day.
Well, I certainly think the aggression that was around, and which came through a lot of women at the time. I mean, someone like Patti Smith certainly had that, and also the slight ambiguity of being not masculine but boyish as well, and lesbianism as well. And I think that's always a very, I always like to leave that open. It doesn't bother me at all what someone's sexuality is, and it shouldn't bother anyone at all. It's none of their business.